much for providing that. My name is Monica Petrella. I'm very pleased that I probably only know like half of you, which means that we are growing and that this has been a big success already. So I have the pleasure of being the Food System Program Coordinator for Hillsborough County, which means that I get to work with you and all of your organizations to help us kind of come together and create a unified food systems plan. So the food system, one component of it is urban ag, and that's largely what's being represented here. But as we know, and as our keynote speaker kind of talked about, this is just a stepping stone into agriculture in general. And so if we can teach people to get comfortable at the community garden level, then maybe they'll grow up and want to be a farmer. Maybe they'll want to work in the distribution network. Maybe they'll want to do food safety or organic certification. And so it is my job and my privilege to be able to work with all of you to see what do we want to do, what do we want to accomplish, and what kind of things do we need to get it done. So that's all about me. The rest of this presentation is actually about how gardens are good for the earth, and how community gardens can be a leverage point and entrance into greater sustainability, and then talk about some of the environmental issues. So we're not necessarily going to talk about the environmental issues, but just talk about how community gardens can positively influence us and have positive impacts on our environment. And so I have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Steve McKinnon, who is from the Brandon Seeds of Faith Community Garden. He has an incredibly interesting and fun story. We chatted a little bit the other day, and he tried to leave Florida once, but then he came back because he realized it's the place to be. Lives down in Riverview, and is a very large, active part of their community garden down there. So has a lot of really good success stories, probably some things that didn't work so well, but I would definitely encourage anybody to use this time to learn from him, and then probably connect with him one-on-one as well. And then also, is Regina or Brenda or...
We're all here.
Yay, awesome, yay, okay, great. And then so we also have Regina, Brenda, and Agneta from the Garden Steps Initiative, which, if you're not aware, the Garden Steps Initiative at Healthy 22nd Street, pretty close to here, it is a wonderful demonstration garden that allows everyone passing along that street in the neighborhood to see what a garden can look like, and ideally inspire them to have one in their backyard or to start or join a community garden. But it has been incredibly successful. It is so impressive to watch, and we're going to hear a little bit from them as well. So great. So Steve, do you want to lead us, and then we'll have the Healthy 22nd Street ladies.
Thanks, Monica. So I know the sound in this room is kind of tough, so if you can't hear me, I guess that's tough too. I'll try to keep this mic close to my mouth.
You're good like this.
Okay, so anyway, Monica said my name is Steve McKinnon. Kitty's going to help us scroll through a bunch of pictures that I brought that are not in any order. They're just a random bunch of pictures that I collected of our garden over the past couple of nights, in the middle of the night, with the help of my daughter. So a little bit about our garden. Seeds of Faith Garden is on the grounds of Bay Life Church in Brandon. It was founded as an outreach to the community for a faith-based congregation of believers. Our motto is really feeding, strengthening, and community. It started back in 2011. I think we started with 12 beds. We had big support from our local Home Depot team, who brought out a bunch of bricks for us to start with back in 2011. We now have 83, 12 by 4 foot beds in our garden. Half of our garden, 48 beds, are rentable by growers to grow whatever they want in their bed. 35 of the beds we grow collectively and share that food with local food banks. For about the past, almost every single year, definitely the past 6 years, we've been able to provide over 2,000 pounds of food to a couple of local food pantries. So we have gopher turtles.
Oh, wow.
They're fun, they're great to watch, trouncing around, they're challenging at times. Along with pollinators, our garden got recognized last year by the University of Florida for a 2-year award for for community gardens. Part of that was because we share food with food pantries because of our gopher turtles, which are all over our grounds of our church property. We have 46 acres on the church property. And the pollinators, because we do have flowers and everything growing around us. We do have the wasps and the bees and everything else that has been talked about. We were really excited and pleased to get that garden award. Back in 2019, we also won an award, Harvest Award out of Hillsborough County Fair. Our master gardener who started this garden back in 2011 passed away in late 19, and she had submitted the application for this award, and she got it kind of posthumously. She was a master gardener, a wonderful person, a personal friend of mine, and that's how I got involved with the garden. I am not a master gardener. I'm lucky. I've learned over years now, about 7 years in the garden, that occasionally I can grow a cucumber like a couple of those there. But I really, first of all, I've benefited greatly from this group and the information that we're sharing together. This is my first conference. I'm so happy to be here and learning all kinds of good stuff for our garden and our gardeners. We have about 25 or 26 regular growers in our 48 beds that we rent every year. Most of us have a couple of beds, and we grow a wide variety of fruits and vegetables. We have a couple of peach trees. Mostly it's vegetable growing. We have a big avocado tree. We have a couple of citrus that Whip is back there responsible for.
Are those your peaches?
Yeah, we have peach trees coming off, and peaches coming off our peach tree, which, again, I don't know, that's mostly, we've got a couple of growers that tend to the peaches, but we're learning every year how to do things better, and we've still got a long way to go. That's Cindy. That was our master gardener that started the garden for us years ago, back in 2011. We've got a nice fence around our garden. It's about 3/4 of an acre right now. Over the years that I've been involved with the garden, we've gone from a manual irrigation system to timed irrigation on all of our beds. So we used to have to draft a waterer every day, a volunteer to come out and water all those beds. And that was tough to do, because of course we want to water in the morning. So I'm trying to recruit volunteers to come out at 7:30 in the morning to water. Now we don't do that anymore. We've got, like I said, a timed watering system. Some of the beds are still overhead watering, and some of them are drip. That's an older picture because our fence isn't up there yet. Like I said, none of these are in any kind of order. We buy about 20 yards of new soil every year. We use that to replenish the nutrients primarily on the 35 community side beds that we grow for, but we do share that soil with the growers if we have extra after we've replenished our beds. We're generally shut for the summer. We do have some cover crops. Kitty was nice enough to get us to grow some sun hemp this year. We're trying to figure out what to do with that now exactly, but we're growing a couple of beds of sun hemp. We hope to get the nitrogen out of that. We do have some beds that have sweet potatoes. In different summers, we've grown more beds of sweet potatoes. I think what I'm learning from this conference today is I'm going to grow less sweet potatoes because they kind of chews up the soil when you pull all those potatoes out of them. So those are my two grandsons. They're picking carrots with me one day recently. Oh, there they are. Yeah, that's a lot. That's just out of my bed, so we can grow some carrots.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great harvest. And like you've all talked about, the best thing about, or one of the great things about gardening is I get to take my kids, because we're on the grounds of a church, for a couple of years, the Sunday school kids would come out and harvest with us. So again, the same thing that has been said before, you ask the kids where the carrot comes from, they say Publix until they get to pull them out of the ground. So we really, we rely on the community. We have scheduled community garden work days the second Saturday of every month. And that's been going on for a number of years, and that's actually really helped our garden a whole lot, because prior to that, getting volunteers out to do all the work of maintaining an 84-bed garden was a problem. Now we get support from the high schools. They get Bright Futures hours signed off at that garden work day. We get corporate support because we've always got companies calling us asking where they can go get, some team building exercises done. And everybody knows we're always there on the second Saturday of the month for 2 hours from 8 to 10. We normally get about 40 to 50 people out on those work days. Now that includes most of the growers, which is about 15 or 20 of the growers show up, and then the rest of the community. So recently, thanks to the Riverview Garden Club, we put in some 6 beds that now have pole bean stanchions in them, and we're growing a lot of pole beans for those of us that are getting older. Harvesting bush beans was not getting as much fun. You know how prolific those bush beans get. So we're having fun picking the pole beans now. It's a whole lot easier. What else can I tell you about our garden? Okay.
So your garden is on the property of a church.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about like how that all kind of came to be. Maybe you weren't there when it all happened, but what's the motivation? What's the organization? Is it all members of your church? Is it community members? Like, what's the split there?
Yeah, good question. No, I wasn't there when it first started, but it was our lead pastor's wife had a vision of a community outreach and food. In her life, she's been involved with food to people in need of food, and she's got a very giving heart. I think you might have got that on you.
Hello.
So wow, this one works really good. So this is the one we should have been using all day. Okay, so anyway, our lead pastor's wife, Eleanor, has spent a life in service, and she saw it as a great way to reach out to the community and bring in neighbors and sure maybe have them play a role in our church and get involved with our faith. But anybody in the community can have a bed. You do not have to be a member of our church. Many of our growers are not. Quite frankly, we hope that we get to throw those seeds for our faith when anybody's in our garden with us, because that's kind of what we're there for. But we're just there to have fun too, and let kids and everybody experience how exciting it is to grow vegetables. I got a 38-year-old daughter who didn't know that a Brussels sprout grew on a stalk until about 2 years ago. She had no clue, and she's not a faith-based person. In my family, I'm about the only one except for a sister that's involved with their faith. So I see God working in my 38-year-old daughter. Those were her 2 sons that were there picking carrots. So obviously, our faith is working because they're bringing non-faith-based people into the garden and they're having fun growing all kinds of stuff. But yeah, we don't limit it. We'd love to have a whole community out helping us.
This is a great picture to end on. Look at all that you're growing.
Yeah.
Can you estimate how much pounds of food that you're donating each
Yeah.
year?
This year we donated 2,307 pounds of food to the food pantries. Now that represents about 71 days. We harvest twice a week. We harvest on Wednesday and then one of the weekend days. We're shut for the middle of June. So we shut July, August, September actually. We found over the years, we used to start planting in September, and a lot of the growers were losing their crops. So our first work day is actually October 8th. We plant some tomatoes and peppers in advance, the board members and some of the growers. But on the community side, we invite them all out the first week of October now to start planting on the community side and on their own beds.
Any quick questions before we go to our next speakers? And then he'll be up here if you can ask questions later too. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. All right. Well, that was great. Thank you so much. And so now we have Regina, Brenda, and Agneta.
Y'all have to wait for me now. Okay, here we go.
And if you all want to introduce yourselves and maybe say how you got involved or anything like that, we'd love to hear that.
Give us a second.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, here you go.
Can you push these buttons for me? Slideshow from the beginning. Okay. All right. So just sit here because I'm
Okay. Give me a second.
being the steps.
I should have helped you. I didn't know you were struggling.
All right, I'm glad not to be a remote controlled button anymore. Like I'm a human being now. It has been really one of the joys of my life. To work with this project. I didn't know I was going to do this. But I will tell you how it got started. We planned together
that's how we do things in the Healthy 22nd Street Garden Initiative. We ask questions and let the community tell us what they think would be a good thing to do. And so the first thing was like, how did we get here? How did we get here? So I'm not going to say a whole lot of things. It's right there. Pictures, 1,000 words. This was a multi-agency project started in 2017 with all those people. And we came in second place out of 50 cities that participated in the challenge. And we got $50,000 to implement, go ahead, our grant, which we called Garden Steps, the goal of which is to improve the health of our community through increased access to fresh produce through gardening. And so we did all those things from 2017 to 2018, early 2019, when we were awarded second place in the country. You know, Lena, wherever she is, she always says, you know, I think somebody made a mistake. We should have gotten first place. But we've been able to see something grow that we weren't expecting exactly the way it is because we were listening to the community, which was a big lesson for us when we first started in all that research that we did between 2017 and 2019, meeting with different groups, community, civic associations, faith-based organizations throughout East Tampa, based on the research that we did about health statistics and food access. We identified the area in East Tampa as the area with the greatest access issues and the greatest health issues. So we went to those community members and we said, you know, like, we can help, we could do gardening, yay! We come from the Tampa Heights Community Garden, we love our garden, you'll love a garden. And they were like, not so sure. I don't think I want to walk, I got the grandkids. Oh, okay, so we go back and talk to ourselves and we say like, wow, we need to fix up our presentation. We absolutely said all the right things and it fell flat. Okay, we're gonna have a jazzier presentation next time. You know, gardens, blah, 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 all that, you know. No. So we kind of got that kind of reaction that people give that they don't give much of a reaction. So we started actually doing more listening. And the listening was, people were interested in their health. They were interested in gardening. They just weren't interested in going to a certain place. They wanted to garden in their front yard. It took us probably the better part of a whole year to actually hear that. So that's when we started in 2020 implementing the Garden Steps project. Hit it, my friend. Did you bump me? Yeah? Okay, we'll do it again. Oh, this is what we then want. That, I needed another color, I really, yeah. So we started with the demonstration garden. So this is interesting, and I have it on good authority, and I've actually studied probably about 10 community garden groups in different cities like Austin and Seattle and Boston and Richmond and Atlanta, and that this is kind of a unique structure for a community of gardeners, that we start with a small garden that's a demonstration garden, which is a learning garden and a gathering place, and it provides education in the community. So there's a community aspect, and there's a support aspect, and there's a learning and a moving forward about gardening, and then to actually install front yard gardens. So we developed this little half-barrel, self-wicking garden structure that we just call it a barrel garden. But it's constructed on the same premise as an earth box with a reservoir for water at the bottom and a membrane separating, and a pipe down to the water, and the soil up above. So the water comes through the fabric, the landscape fabric, and keeps the soil moist. And so we've been watching what's been happening with the front yard gardens, and we have pictures. So let's go. These are our 20 members, and we've got a couple people here, Althea and Irene. And anybody else is in the audience? Will. And then these three ladies right here. And then these other like 16 people that all have a front yard garden. And what we've seen is they've enjoyed their front yard garden. They've learned about gardening. They actually knew quite a bit about gardening because they remembered helping with, family members that gardened. So they didn't feel completely separated from it, but to actually be in charge of their own garden. They were cautious. They were interested, but cautious. Okay? So, we just have her name? What happened to her picture? Okay, try the next one. Let's see what happens. Aren't they there? Because you were going to get to meet all of them. Something messed up. Well, there's Brenda's lettuce. Well, the whole thing is like that. Oh well. So we'll just let them tell you themselves. And I will introduce Regina.
Thank you, Miss Kitty. My name is Regina Belay, and first of all, I want to thank Lena Young and Miss Kitty Wallace, and also Michelle Ogilvy. These ladies came to East Tampa, to a desert community and the poorest community in Tampa. And there's a proverb that says, "Give a man a fish and you will feed him a day. Teach a man to fish and you will feed him a lifetime." I thought about these ladies when they came to East Tampa, and it was like a godsend because these ladies taught us. Some of us already knew through a friend of a friend of a friend how to do some things, but they even taught us more things on how to garden. And now we're taking them to our friends. And East Tampa needs our support because we have all these communities of apartments, people that are in need of food. So we're learning how to do different things in helping our community. And we thank these ladies from the bottom of our heart.
Good afternoon. So my name is Agneta, and I am here from originally beautiful island of St. Lucia, but I'm now a Florida native. So a few years ago when Miss Kitty, in fact, I'm here to share what I've learned as a participant in the 22nd Street Gardening. Okay, so one of the things that I've learned was about eating healthier. I mean, I've always had an interest in gardening from a very young age, but I've also always gardened, like people march to the tune of their own beat or whatever, so that's how I garden. But by working with these ladies, I'm learning to do things, mindfully and in the proper way. So I'm still learning because I've done it for so long, it's hard to adapt, to follow the rules. So one of the goals have, as far as gardening has been the emphasis on better health and better living and its benefits. Then it gives me a sense of accomplishment that comes with seeing what the crops that have been produced and then in harvesting and sharing or even consuming some of what I've planted. Another benefit was it forces me to move, whether, I plant it in a container or in the ground or whatever. And you know, they say the first thing to recognizing you have a problem is the first thing to overcoming a problem is to recognize you have a problem. I have an addiction to planting. So every time I trim a bush or I break something, I'm always sticking it in the ground. So I have like, it's crazy. More plants that I give them away and I still continue to do the same thing. So, you know, it's a form of madness, but I'm okay with that. Okay. And then another benefit is that it releases, when we're out there gardening or whatever, no matter what kind of stresses we may be undergoing or enduring, it's releasing those endorphins, you know, so it's kind of like a mindless, for me, kind of like a mindless thing, like pulling weeds or whatever. You know, it's not science, you don't have to think about it, you're doing something, and it just releases the stress or the tension that you may be feeling. And another thing about gardening too, it should be kind of like fun, something you enjoy. Some people take the life and things too seriously. You know, the plant has to be exactly 6 inches apart and they'll take a ruler and measure it. I'm not that kind of girl, so I don't have time for all that. My thing is just to enjoy what I'm doing. Okay, another thing is the camaraderie. You see, there's a lot of other things that comes with gardening. And a surprising thing was over 30 years ago, I worked with Miss Kitty, and it took me like 2 months, just like 2 months ago, I'm like, that name is familiar, I know a Kitty Wallace. And then I finally put it together that she was the, in fact I asked her because I wasn't sure. I said, Miss Kitty, did you used to work with exceptional ed? And she said, yeah. So it reconnects people. I've met so many different people from all different parts of the country, different parts of the world. So it is, you know, it's just been really, really a great experience. But I could be long-winded, so I better let Brenda have it. Thank you.
Okay. We know this is right after lunch and what happens with that.
Okay.
So, let's see how many times.
Was the microphone by your mouth?
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see how many times I use words that start with P. 3 P's to the good life of sin. C-E-N, cooking, eating nutritiously. I learned the 3 P's of my garden is to plant, pick, and prep. Plant, stress reliever for sure. I get pleasure seeing the food grow. Great exercise with no back bending or knee crunches. For my front yard garden, I have issues with both my back and my knees. Osteoporosis is a concern of my family history. However, vitamin D helps the bones absorb the calcium. I improved my bone density and vitamin D level by my exposure to natural sunlight, along with over-the-counter vitamin D, and no longer take prescription strength vitamin D. So there are no excuses. I get out of the house, which is not expensive, and having the front yard garden caused me to pay attention to other surroundings of landscape. So the rest of my yard have to look nice too. The watering system gave me confidence that I would not kill the plants by overwatering nor for lack of water because of the watering system that Kitty just described. It is also a great conversation starter and ongoing discussion among my neighbors and the routine regular pedestrians. The pick gave me a schedule to crop veggies ready to eat, provided me the opportunity to share with my neighbors. Now all are watching, especially when I had the cherry tomatoes.
Uh-oh, what happened?
So sweet and juicy. Everyone waiting to partake. Prep, I am encouraged to venture outside my typical grocery list and menu plans to try different recipes. Nothing is discarded. Now for SIN, the C-E-N, cooking and eating nutritiously, I eat more healthy foods because it is readily available in my...
A real honor for me. haven't known everyone long, but the conversations that I've had with them have taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about what it means to be a community member, what it means to be held accountable for working with the community and learning from the community, as Kitty said, to listen, to understand people's backgrounds, to understand their histories. And if we're going to tackle problems like food insecurity, if we're going to tackle deep problems like structural racism, gender inequities in the food system, that's only going to happen when we listen to our neighbors and really understand the experiences and learn, if we are willing to, the love that is shared when we sit down and eat together and listen to one another. And this is really one of the unique things as a researcher that I've seen looking at community gardens and urban farms across the country. This is one of the few programs that I've seen that is like this. So we here in this room, supporting Kitty and this organization and Healthy 22nd Street, really have the opportunity here to show the country, if not the world, what these types of programs can bring to us and all the different levels of healing that can come about of that. But it's only because of women like you all that are doing the work and are welcoming people in the community. So thank you so much.
To be able to describe the Garden Steps model, because we are getting attention from across the region and across the nation about this kind of community of gardeners model. And it seems to be different, but it is that there might not be a piece of land large enough for everyone to have a productive garden in. There might not be conditions in which people would come to a large garden. They might have problems with health, they might be taking care of grandkids, they might be working 3 jobs, but they might still be interested in growing things in their front yard or backyard. And so this model is being looked at in 2 other neighborhoods. In the North Tampa neighborhood, the 813 Hood Garden, Miss D, and the Highland Pines Garden, Miss D, and Town and Country Fledgling Garden that's actually property owned by Sweetwater Farms, but they've donated it on the outskirts of their farm so that it would be accessible to the community. So they are not coming all the way into the farm, but going back and forth to a plot of land that's near the Harney Road area. So there's possibilities for us to see how this model can adapt to other regions. And what's going on here is that each of these gardeners is being asked now, after they've been a year and a half fully engaged with the gardening, is do they want to expand their garden? Some of them have already answered that question months ago. They already dug up a whole plot and put their collard greens over there, so now they have and Miss Irene has put black-eyed peas all in her front yard. Instead of bushes, she's grown black-eyed peas. So and Ron's kids gave him a 3-tiered assembled box for Father's Day, and now he's growing all kinds of turnips and greens. So many of them just naturally were asking that question, well, gosh, I can grow this much over here. What would happen if I added this and I added that? So we're seeing an evolution of what happens next when gardeners get confidence in a small spot and see the benefits and bring their neighbors and their friends along. So, anything's possible. Anyway, thank you so much for your attention.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that what we do or have done this summer, it wasn't just about the gardening, because it got so hot. We had some classes at the library, and during one of the sessions, Miss Kitty invited the Dr. Tracy, and I am so thankful. I could almost get emotional about it, because 4 years ago, I lost my daughter. And my son happens to be diabetic, and he hadn't been to the doctor in just about that long. And I couldn't talk him into it. I reminded him, and it was a worry for me because I only had 2 children. And after meeting Dr. Tracy, I spoke to her, and she said to me, I said, Dr. Tracy, he won't go to a doctor. She said to me, well, give him my number, and I'll talk to him, let him know how serious it is. So since then, he's actually been to Dr. Tracy 3 times. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because had I not been part of this gardening community, I don't want to lose another child. So I really do thank you for that, the educational aspect. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's important. All right, I know that Monica's standing up here for a reason.
I was just gonna see if anyone had a quick question. We still have like 5 minutes, 6 minutes.
Oh.
So if you like, maybe go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to thank Miss Kitty again, and Lena and Michelle, and thank you for this conference, and thank you for inviting us, and thank you for believing in us.
Does anybody have a question for any of our panelists? They did a great job at all wearing yellow, so congrats to that. Yeah, any quick questions? Favorite thing to grow?
Favorite thing?
Swift chart.
Do you have a favorite thing?
Everything. Mangoes, tomatoes, peppers. Don't let me get started.
Yeah, she's the one that encouraged me to, whatever you grow, let it be something you can eat.
So let's see, because we have some challenges with some of the varmints around our garden, I found that I like to grow things that grow underground. So I really like to grow carrots a whole lot, although I have to have somebody else go thin those things for me, because you know, you plant all those little seeds, and when I go to thin those carrots out, I feel like I'm killing something. So I actually bribe one of the other gardeners to go thin my carrots for me, but I really like to grow carrots a whole lot.
So do the children in our Tampa Heights youth program. We have a youth gardening class on Tuesday afternoons, and somewhere over there is a picture that we submitted to the state flower show. We got 2nd place. Of the kids, they had just harvested their carrots, and they were like, oh, my carrot. I said, stand still a minute, let me take your picture with your carrot. They would not. So we'll see the picture. They were just like, carrots!
All right, so we still have time for one more question, or we'll go to the next panel.